Hello everyone, Linda Israel here. I have a few supplies put together to create a cozy moments journaling card. Part of the Canvas Corp crew, and I thought I would share a few things here. So I've got some stamps, I've got some Tattered Angels products, I've got some of the 7 Gypsies Architectures, I've got some Canvas Corp brand tan and ivory damask paper, a page out of an old dictionary, some fabric and lace. So let's get started here. To begin with, I'm going to take this sheet of Canvas Corp paper and I'm going to trim it down. I'm going to cut it into 6 pieces. They're going to be 4 inches by 6 inches in size, and that will be great for journaling cards. Now that I have this trimmed down, I'm going to use my crocodile corner rounder and round the corners. I'm only going to make 3 cards today, so I'm just going to set aside these extra pieces for another project. So I've got my crocodile corner rounder and I've got it on the 1/4 inch side. I found that I can stack 3 at a time, and I just want a small rounded corner on each of these cards, and it goes faster if you can punch them all at once. Part of the reason I'm making this is the Canvas Corp Brands is having a challenge, and you're supposed to create what you feel is reminiscent of a cozy moment. And I thought, when I looked at this, I enjoy drinking my favorite hot beverage. It depends on the day. Could be a cup of coffee, could be a cup of hot tea, and reading a book, possibly sitting outside enjoying the weather. And that's kind of a cozy moment to me. So I thought I would share that with you by showing you how to create a cozy moment journal card. Right now I'm going around the edges of the card with some vintage photo distressed ink using a blending tool. Just kind of helps define the edge and makes it look like a finished product as opposed to just cutting a piece of paper. I've got a piece of dictionary page, and I thought, well, what I'll do is kind of go in and cut and tear and add as a little collage on the front of my card here. So I'm just going to look at this for a moment and decide. I think what I'll do is slightly fold it and crease it. And because it's a dictionary page and it's old, in theory it should tear, and it did. And I'm going to go ahead and do that again the other direction. And now I'll have multiple pieces that I can use. This is my blending board. It's a piece of cardboard, and I use that so that I don't have to clean off my work surface. And I've got some blending with the blending tool and vintage photo again. I'm just going to go around the edges of this dictionary page. The page I chose had the word coffee defined, and it may not be seen completely when I'm done, but I will know that it was there. I want to adhere this onto this journal card, so I'm going to use the best glue ever. That's a really fine nozzle, so I don't have to use a whole lot of glue. I just want a little bit and a thin line around the edge to help hold this piece into place, and a little squiggle down the middle. I'm going to put it on here at a diagonal just for interest. I know this isn't the best angle possible, but I'm going to sew around this, and I just thought I would just show you that it's really quite simple. I have my machine set on a standard zigzag stitch. This is a very old machine. It makes a lot of noise. I don't use it for anything else other than paper right now because I'm a seamstress, and I have other machines that I use for making garments and projects, if you will. So when it comes to paper, here's what I do. I just add a bobbin thread, whatever color I want. In this case, it happens to be white. The top thread looks like a teal color. I have some really old thread that if you were to use this on fabric and you want to make a garment, it went a hole because fabric, or excuse me, the thread gets old and it is brittle. It just breaks really easily. So I'm trying to use up some of this old thread that I have on my paper projects. So I'm just going to place this under here. I've got a standard sewing machine needle in my machine. So I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch around all of these cards right on the border. See, this is what happens when you have old thread. It'll kind of ball up. So sometimes it may be worth to have new thread, but I am determined to use up all of this thread that I have. And what I will do when I'm at the end of the last stitch, I will just move it a little bit out of the way and then continue on with my next piece of paper. That way I'm not using as much thread and I can just trim all the pieces at the end. Don't worry if it's not straight. It's handmade. It's a journal card. It's for fun and texture. So try not to be so worried about, oh, it's not straight. It's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. It's for fun. You're enjoying the process. So now I've got the pages or journal cards sewn around the edges and I'm just trimming away some of that excess thread. I kind of like leaving a little bit of thread. I don't want them super long, but a little bit is okay. I've got some other supplies laid out here. I've got some doilies that I found in my stash. I have some lace and I have some fabric. And what I thought I would do is kind of pleat this. All I'm doing is just grabbing a hold, putting a little pleat, if you will, here and there. And I'm just going to make basically a little rosette. So that kind of goes around. I'm not being perfect. I'm just pleating it together, kind of cut it. So that's a little flower in a sense. And I'm just going to use a stapler to hold it together. So that's just loosely holding that together on here. And I'm going to do that again with a piece of fabric now that I had in my stash left over from another project. And I'm just, again, pleating it around. Not really paying any attention to how I'm doing it other than I'm trying to go all the way around in a somewhat circle-ish manner. And again, I'm going to slip this into my stapler and staple this together. So there's a couple little staples. And that is in the center of this. So now I'm trying to decide, do I want to go ahead and use the paper doily or not? It's okay if you don't use some of the supplies that you set out when you start to make a project. And I think I kind of like the way that doily looks, but I think the doily needs a little bit of color to it. So I'm going to use some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist and color this. I've got my spray box here, and let's see, I'm going to use a little bit of Chalkboard. This one's called French Vanilla. So I want to spray a little bit of this. All it's doing is making it just a little bit darker hue than white. And then I have some Precious Metal Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist. And I like the way that this adds just a little bit of color and a really pretty shimmer to the project. So I'm shaking it up really well to get that mica powder up into the liquid. This is a water base. It's non-toxic. You're not going to have to worry about it killing you with fumes. And look at that. So it's all nice and shimmery. And I can let it air dry, or I'm going to use my heat tool to speed up the process. I'm liking how this is beginning to look. I'm going to use my blending tool and just lightly go around the edges here and there. It'll give a little darkness to it. Kind of give it that vintage look, since my page out of my dictionary is kind of vintage looking. Gosh, tongue-tied today. And then, of course, the Canvas Corp paper has that brown or sepia tone to it. have a scrap of some Canvas Corp craft colored cardstock, and I have a Brutus Monroe stamp set. I think it was A Cup of Thanks is the name of it, and I like this little phrase, so I'm going to stamp that onto this craft colored and then cut it out, and this is going to be a little tag or label that I'll put on here. The MISTI is the tool that I'm using, and I like using this tool because it will allow me to place my stamp where I want it. I can stamp, and I can stamp multiple copies of the same image if I want by just repositioning paper inside the unit and re-inking. And I know I get perfect placement. The other thing I like about it is if it didn't get a good impression the first time, I can stamp again and again until it looks the way I want it to look. I just used Brutus Monroe detail ink for the black so it would be nice and dark on my paper. And I've got my paper trimmer, and I just trimmed the piece to fit what I want for my design. I'm going to use a little bit of this distress ink around each of these pieces. So we're getting down to starting to adhere things to the card. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to adhere down these doilies. So I'm going to use a little bit of the best glue ever and just basically make a little circle on the back side of the doily. And I want to place it just a little bit up onto my journaling card because I'm going to lay the lace piece on top. I'm going to apply the best glue ever to the back side of my little lace flower that I made. And the fabric flower as well. What I like to do is put something heavy on it when I use glue like this. So I'm just using an acrylic block and laying it on there to let it dry for a moment. It doesn't take very long for the glue to dry, so I've already removed my little block. And now it's time for some finishing touches. I've got the little saying, "A Cup of Thanks." And I think what I want to do is have that going at a diagonal across the top of the card here. So I'm going to put a little bit of the best glue ever. Again, it doesn't require a whole lot. And I'm going to have it just kind of sticking up the top of the page here. And then I've got one of the Architextures. This is the, I think they're little china cups. Where is it called? China tea cups is what they're called. So I'm just going to take one of these images and place it right in the center of my little flower. Like so. I'll finish the others with the same manner. I've placed two of the cards into my spray box. I like to use a spray box when I use Tattered Angels because I don't want the mist to go everywhere, and this helps keep it all in one area. And then I have a piece of paper underneath that I use as my mop-up page, and that way it soaks up that excess glimmer mist, and I can use that for other projects. I have some coffee shop Tattered Angels. It's a dark brown, and I think what I want to do is splatter it over my tag. So I'm just going to take the wand out of the bottle and just make little splatters here and there. So we'll have that reminiscent look of maybe there was a wormholes in the paper. So I'll let that dry for a moment. I'm going to do the other one as well that I have in the set. Well, here are my finished journal cards with the Cup of Thanks on it. The back side is blank, so it has a stitching around it. I made 3 different ones because there were 3 different teacups in that set. I'll have some close-up photos at the end as well. And of course, make sure that you check out the Canvas Corp Brands Collective and learn about more products that are by Canvas Corp Brands and Tattered Angels and 7 Gypsies. Make sure that you like and comment, subscribe on my video here today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And check out the friendly Junk Journal People Facebook group, a group where lots of like-minded people get together and share and are friendly with each other. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Bye.